Hello everyone, my name is Clay Tuttle, and in this episode of my What is Art series, I'm going to talk to you about seeing in shapes, and about how artists use basic shapes to create almost any person, place, or thing that they can imagine. So, without any further ado, let's get started.
Believe it or not, almost every object you see in the world around you is composed of three basic shapes: the square, the triangle, and, perhaps most importantly, the circle. This has to do with the way that human beings process and interpret visual information. Our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the things we see in the world around us. And it does this by matching the things we see and comparing them with things we already know, such as basic shapes like squares, triangles, and circles. This effect is called pareidolia. Pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon that causes the human brain to lend significance to random patterns. Pareidolia is also responsible for our tendency to assign human characteristics, such as facial features, to random inanimate objects. So if you've ever seen a face in a cloud, a tree, or even a tortilla, pareidolia is most likely to blame. And it's even led us to see faces on other planets, such as Mars.
So what does pareidolia have to do with art? Quite a bit, actually. As it turns out, our penchant for seeing shapes and patterns in everyday objects is perhaps the single most important tool we have when it comes to learning how to produce art. In fact, with enough practice, you can learn to see almost any person, place, or object as a series of shapes and colors that can then be broken down and translated to a page or a canvas.
The basic craft of drawing can be broken down into two distinct skill sets: learning how to see and learning how to translate what you see onto a canvas or a page. As with all things, the most important aspect of learning how to draw is practice. First, as you go about your business and move around your everyday world, practice finding the three basic shapes in the things around you. Practice looking for the squares, triangles, and circles, and the people, places, and things you see in your everyday environment, whether you're at work, school, or at a coffee shop. Before you know it, you'll begin to see shapes literally everywhere, and with little to no effort. They'll just begin to jump out at you as if they were always there. Next, practice putting these shapes into practice. For beginners, I recommend the following exercises that were developed by artist Ralph Amir. The first exercise is all about circles. Draw lots of circles on a piece of paper until the paper is completely filled. Try your best to make sure that the circles don't overlap, but it's okay if they do. As you go along, try to draw the circles faster and faster. The first thing you'll notice is that drawing perfect circles is not as easy as you might think. They tend to become harder the bigger you make them. Try to draw them in both directions. Maybe even switch hands. And try to figure out, as you go along, what the differences between the circles are. The next exercise is all about lines. Try to fill up your paper with bunches of parallel lines of all different lengths and running in all different directions. Artists call this technique hatching, and it is oftentimes used as a shading technique. Diagonal lines come easier for us than perpendicular lines because our wrists tend to move in diagonal motions. So try your best to draw your lines in every direction that you can without rotating the paper. The point of this exercise is to train your hand to get comfortable with drawing in all different directions.
Drawing is mainly about seeing and understanding what you see. People often assume that everybody sees everything the same way, but actually seeing is a skill which you can improve. And the more you draw, the more you see. And the more you see, the better you'll draw. Thank you.